Hi everybody, my name's Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, we're here again. We're here again together. And really, in this day and age, it's extraordinary, really, that we can come together, that this message, that this show, that this intention of Bridging Heaven and Earth can reach so many people, and so many people respond back so powerfully and with so much love and dedication, both internally with the crew and externally with all the responses we get from the extraordinary guests that come in from all over the world and people who watch it from all over. In this time of you know, craziness in a way, in this time of where the illusion of suffering, the illusion of pain, the illusion of abuse seems so strong, that the power of love, the power of that truth, the power of the oneness is the only thing stronger. And that we're allowed over and over again to come together to share that is just, it's just really unbelievable. And, you know, every time we do this, I know the people here feel so honored to be able to participate in the journey into that recognition, into that experience that is what we are, but to come into a full understanding, a full recognition of that, a full experience of we were talking about this in an earlier show, the vastness of who we are, the vastness of the love that each individual is, that each of us individually, whatever race, color, creed, age, nationality, whatever we see as the seeming differences here, that we recognize the vastness, that we recognize that we're all the same love, and that love is so vast and so true and so real. And we're here to do that again and again. The guests have traveled in to share their love, to share their gift, to share their understanding, to share their joy. And I know how much you appreciate it. I mean, I more than anyone else, because I see all the emails, I get all the letters, or one point or another, I see most of them. I get the calls. And it's really a great gift for us all to be here. So I hope you feel fortunate to be able to participate in this, because we here sure do. So again, the guests are here to share their love. We have David Hoffmeister. He's a spiritual teacher who literally his whole life is traveling around the world, sharing a message and the experience of the present moment, of truth, of inner peace. And he's just a walking, living demonstration of what that intent, of what that desire, in a sense, what that momentum can do to a human being. That he carries that joy and that inner peace as the cornerstone of his life. And, you know, he came in specifically to California. That was the centerpiece for him to do this show, to share with you that gift, that joy that he has been allowed to have. And we haven't been really doing this much lately, but tonight we have a live musical guest on the set. We used to do it all the time, but we've been, for one reason or another, logistically and other reasons, have decided that we weren't going to do it. And tonight the opportunity was so strong and so great. Miki is just an extraordinary singer-songwriter. And again, I mean, when you see her, you'll know that the vibration behind every word, every song, every motion is of that love, of that true love, that joy, that oneness. So let's take that gratefulness and just bring it. Let's just bring it, like they talk about in stores. Let's bring it. Let's bring it out into this world. Let's not hide. Let's say that we're here, the love is here, and, you know, let's go. So join me in a short meditation, then we'll have David and Miki, and, you know, it's just, we're very fortunate to be here, and you're fortunate to be watching. So join me in a short meditation. If you don't know a meditation, just relax, settle in. Then we're going to have the first Miki set. So join me. Hi. So this is a real opportunity for us. So it's Miki Huber. Her song is Something Invincible. Something Invincible is written, performed by her, and it's on a yet untitled new CD.
And when he said, there's no miracle but this, steps on the subway on a cold, cold winter's night. Was I wrong? And when he said, the light is there inside, did you believe him? Or did you run away and hide? Or was I wrong? There's something true, woman, in this world. On the day that you were born, a shipload of pirates left you tattered, worn, and torn. But was I wrong? Now on the platform, same train you've been waiting for, you can't remember. Maybe forever and a day. Was I wrong? something true, woman, in this world. When time was born, it's closing in. When I was born, it's an open end. And when he said, there's no miracle but this, you look inside her and you remember what you're waiting for. Then you know that what you're waiting for is this.
Wow, that was beautiful, wasn't it? Thank you, Miki. So we're on the set with David. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. So when did, the explosion happen in you? When was it clear that, you just had to share the love?
Around 1991 was the explosion when I felt impelled to just go out, like I was just going to burst if I didn't go out. And I, had to trust that the means would be provided, because that was part of the explosion, was all of my but, and...
the mind comes in with all the reasons why the implosion, it's going to be an implosion rather.
Yes,
Right.
because it was not only to go out and share, but to live a life of trust, trusting in the divine to provide, that we share a very powerful message and a living experience, and part of that is trusting that the means will come with it. We wouldn't be given from our source such a holy task without the means being provided as well. So that was the overcoming of the ego and the transcending of it to say, okay, I'm going to do this, and we'll see about those miracles, and it works.
And when you talk about like transcending the ego or overcoming the ego, I mean, in most people's experience, the ego is a very deep, so you overcome it, then it comes again, and it's like I wouldn't call it a constant battle, but a constant reawakening of faith, which is you'll get what you need when you need it. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper until,
Yes, yeah, you might say that that's the approach to enlightenment. It's almost like with dandelions, if you just go around and pluck them out real quick without getting the roots, that's right. Exactly what you get back.
Right.
But that's what the inner life is really, an inner life of not leaving any scrap, down there. So I kind of would say to my unconscious, ollie ollie income free, come on, anything down there that has to come up, come up. And I used movies and music, and as well as relationships, silence, meditation, all the different techniques that have been used to say, okay, anything that I have that's not supremely loving and really expressing this pure oneness, then show yourself, because I will not tolerate holding on to you anymore. So that's what the...
And when you talk about using these like tools and techniques like movies, why don't you describe a little bit about, because I'm sure people are interested to get it out, to get the love clean.
Yeah, I think, well, a lot of times people, when they listen to a piece of music, will just have a lot of deep emotions come up. And occasionally it's like very striking, so I just thought, well, I would ask the Spirit to guide me to pieces of music that would really do that, almost like a flush, help flush it up. Because when it's buried in the unconscious, you can't really access these deeper beliefs and thoughts and emotions. So, and the same thing happened with movies. I would be directed to certain movies. I think of one of the first ones I remember doing this was like going to see Terms of Endearment, with Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton. It was like, it was just so much stuff coming up that it was right there. Then I would either sit in the theater or go out to the car, really spend the time to look at what was going on within my mind, that it wasn't the movie made me sad or made me laugh, that I could see that I was generating this stuff from in my mind, and I really needed to...
It triggered something.
Yes, it really triggered it.
Within you.
Yes.
Right. And what was that? That's the question you were...
Deep emotions. I would say that all these emotions, fear and guilt and shame that are in there, as well as our laughter and joy that are mixed in there, I needed to have those triggered because I needed to have them on the surface of my mind where I could really have the impetus to let them go, not have them buried so deeply.
And so would you say that everyone has some level of what you would consider the other side of the joy, the shame, the guilt, just from the nature of being a human being or living this life or living multiple lives? Or how would you describe that?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. To believe that you come to this earth, even incarnation, the concept of incarnating into this earth means that there's some unconscious guilt. And that's why we have the bridging heaven and earth. It's like, what I really saw was, instead of trying to bring God into the world, and of course there's been lots of statues and rituals, we got an abundance of those all over. Sacred rivers, sacred everything. What my path was really bringing the darkness to the light, exposing the false beliefs and thoughts and concepts. And really, it's like an identity.
You're busy.
Yeah, I know. It was a
lot going on.
It's a lot of inner work, you know.
Boy, that's
it's
taking a lot on.
Yeah, you're like on a keg of dynamite, and you know that you have to get down to the keg. So that's what I really did. Was I thought, and it was always identity too. That I realized that as long as I was tied into this false identity of these false beliefs, that I would be defensive.
Would you say every identity is false in the sense of its comparison to the vastness, so that at some point you're like, we describe it as like love in motion, because you're nothing and everything at the same time?
Yeah. I would say that there's one perceptual identity that brings you peace, and that's forgiveness. So I talk a lot about forgiveness.
Perceptual, but that's not something, that's more of an action rather than an identity, right?
Right.
I mean, you're not a forgiveness, you forgive. Would you say?
Yes, it's the observer that's talked about, the witness self. It's so far back in the mind that it can just look calmly upon the whole beautiful
it's neutral,
tapestry.
and see the whole glory of it from the whole, what was the book by Hermann Hesse?
Siddhartha.
Well, the one with the both sides of it. I forgot the name of it. I'll think of it before the show's over.
Yeah, and it's important to understand with forgiveness too, because we're stepping back into our mind to be the witness self, to be one with the observer, and stepping away from all the personal identities that we seem to have had, because there was always stress involved with reaching those ideals, trying to maintain those ideals. And this is more of a sinking inward to that point where you can kind of be above it all with a state of detachment. And it wouldn't matter then what anyone seems to say or do, when you're in that state of mind. And I mentioned forgiveness too, because in heaven there's nothing to forgive. Pure oneness doesn't even have a clue of what forgiveness is.
Right,
so,
it wouldn't need to forgive.
Yeah, so it's like just one more step to the point where you're ready to take a leap into the kingdom of heaven.
Well, we've been talking a lot lately about, there's earth, in a sense, just to break it down, which is no breakdown, of course, but it's like there's earth, there's heaven, and the bridge is the tricky part.
Yeah.
To be here, to recognize the vastness, the glory of what you are, and to be in a seemingly separate human body. And how do we play together? How do we collaborate? How do we do this, in that seeming gray area? And this is what this time is about, to bridge heaven and earth.
Yes.
To not be only up in the clouds or down, and but how do you take it all in, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah, to me it's just one little tweak in the mind. It's not, everyone makes it sound like it's this huge thing, but it's one little tweak. It's very covered and buried over with all these fears and defense mechanisms, but it's so easy and natural, and all it is having a new purpose for the world. whereas the ego's purpose was, fear and guilt and anger and punishment. We've all seen those things played
How that
out.
plays out.
It's
very pretty.
Yes,
It's
over
very
and over and
pretty.
over, kind of like Groundhog Day for millennium.
Right.
Then this is that little tweak which gives the whole world a new purpose, like a blanket of peace just spreading over all the perceptions. We're not trying to make anybody right, anybody wrong. And
Yeah, it's beyond that. It has nothing to do with
not
that.
an emphasis on differences. So
Right.
it's fun for me when I get to travel around the world, to Europe and South America and places, because I don't speak lots of languages, but a smile is the
Yeah,
universal language.
It's hard to get around
I
that.
know.
That's fine.
And then the translators follow around, you smile, you hug people, you get hugged. It's just, it's the expression of that oneness and the twinkle in your eyes, people, you don't even have to speak the same language. You can just look into each other's eyes and right away there's that recognition.
It's interesting because we talk about it a lot. That really, all people want is to feel love and share it. And we
Yes.
get all this, like you're saying, all this layer and layer and layer and layer on top of it, and it looks like we want other things.
Yeah.
And we would, kill literally for the other things. And really, it's just we're so simple in our root.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we get back to the root? How do we get into that moment, or however it's described a million ways? And
Yeah, it's like fool's gold. I think there's things like fame and status and possessions and physical pleasures and everything. They're very transitory, but everyone who comes here seeks for them. And so that's the ground, that's where you're starting from. And then we have people like the Marilyn Monroes, who seem to have it all. The fame, the status, the money, and even famous husbands, Joe DiMaggio and Arthur Miller, and then the President of the United States.
famous lovers along the
Yeah,
line,
President of the United States,
as they say,
lusting after her and everything, and
more than that, as I
right.
understand it.
and still suppressed,
Right, right.
suicidal. So we can learn from the experiences of others. We don't.
Well,
need to
we don't really have to. We've all done it,
Yes.
to one extent or another.
Yeah.
We've all seen that cycle.
Yes.
And that's what it
Yeah.
is. Your happiness is transitory.
Yes.
And there's something better. See, that's the thing. Until you know that, then it's like, it's like to just say no. Well, you got to say yes to something.
Yeah.
You can't just
Right.
walk around your life and say no.
Right.
No drugs, no,
Right.
But my life, everything is drawing to me. What can I say yes to?
Yes.
And so you're going around saying yes.
Yeah.
There's something to say yes to.
Yeah, and it started too with a simple thing where I thought, what if I could live a life based on joy and inspiration instead of fear of consequences? Because the human condition is, if I don't do this, then these negative consequences will, be upon me. And I started to think, what if the divine providence, we've heard Mother Teresa, St. Francis, a lot of shamans talk about that. Okay, let's test it out here. Let's really go for it. Let's shine the light and joy in it and see if everything just clicks in. And that's why there are a lot of miracles. Nowadays we have like reality TV shows, and people have been suggesting that, like with all of your cameras you have here, we could follow some mystics and saints around and put that kind of reality TV in. And really, that's an example of bridging heaven and earth, because there's lots of smiles, laughter, joy, non-judgment, just being able to be there in the face of someone, just seeing them calling for love, not taking it personally, and then how they light up so quick when you are in that state, because they're just a reflection of the mind.
Yeah, it's a good thing. There should be more of you around. No, and there are more. That's
Yes.
what we see
Oh,
over
yeah.
and over again, is that recognition is becoming realer and realer. One reason or another, one technique, one path, that people are coming into that, knowing that recognition and taking it out in whatever form.
Yes.
We were talking earlier, is it a movie, is it a TV show, is it, walking, is it driving? We somehow have concepts of how that should be, how a holy man should be, how a holy path should be, and that's also part of the illusion.
Yeah. Yeah, there hasn't seemed to be a comprehensive awakening on the planet, but we're getting real close. We're right on the edge.
The 83rd monkey or something.
Yes, it's very
the
close.
100th monkey.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Just from the music and the movies that are coming out now,
Right.
it's so obvious that, every month I have people just writing in and calling me saying, did you see this movie? Did you see that? So excited, like they're just like reflecting this transformation that's going on, and we're right on the cutting edge of it. And how wonderful. It's exciting. It's an honor. I feel like everywhere I go, I just feel so honored wherever I'm asked to speak. There's nothing like the old-time religions of proselytizing, trying to save souls or
Right.
win lost souls.
It's just being joyous.
Just being joyous.
And doing what you love to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you see, just how many people are involved with doing the show and all the crew.
Yes, you look
and it's
around.
just such a joy.
Yeah.
And everybody just has such a great time and enjoys being together. And,
Yes.
and then this thing comes out that goes, all over the world, and people like you come in from all over, and it's just, like I said at the opening, it's such an honor and joy. And when your purpose and your intention kind of line up, which is when I introduced you.
Yes, yes.
And then, it's like you feel more that the wind is in your sails rather than you're always, there's an expression I won't use on national television, but where you get sticky. You're always like spitting up wind.
Yeah, yeah.
And you wonder, why do I feel all gooky?
Yeah. It's like a threshold. Like, I know I don't want to try to paint a picture of going around like in the airports with flowers and la 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 la. You really have to do the inner work, and it takes a lot of focus and attention to retrain your mind like that. But the rewards are wow.
Yeah, it's beyond. Yeah, because the other is so minute and so silly, into the vastness of who you are. So the more you can start experiencing that love and that experience, then the other thing is so petty and so silly. Think about the way we look at countries. And, I'm Frenchman, I'm an American, I'm a Greek, there's no one who's any different, so we're not like separating them out. And you get, a mile off Earth and you look down, all the astronauts come back and say this is this little globe, it's like, and we draw these arbitrary lines and we have wars over it.
Yeah.
For oil, for all the things, instead of that recognition of the sharing and the oneness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's a thin layer, and yet it looks like you couldn't put a tank through it on some level.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes. The abundance really is in the present moment, and the linear belief in time and seeming striving for things is just like this big cover over the present moment. It's like the present moment. It's like, I'm here. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. You can.
Right. And that's where the love is. That's where you are.
Yes.
Everywhere else is just some idea of you in the past and the future. And so that's why most paths are somehow, how do you get in the moment? How do you be here now? How do you, erase personal history? How do you bring your life into this moment, your identity into this moment, and then you have no identity because you're the infinite.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? And maybe what we'll do is, we'll talk a little bit more about this, and then the second thing we'll talk about ways that people can, compress themselves into this moment, expand themselves. We're just using words. But
Yes, yes. I talk a lot about miracles because miracles, in one sense, collapse time. They bring the alpha and the omega back together, in the moment. And
we're hurtling through space on a ball. What's reasonable? So everything is a miracle.
Yes.
It's just like, but we have to say that this is a miracle. Even that definition leaves us somewhat short of the real miracle.
Yes, right.
Do you know what I mean? But we
Yes.
give ourselves little steps in our level of idiocy.
Right. Well, we've definitely grown up with the parting of the Red Sea, and even nowadays with movies, they make fun of parting the tomato soup.
The tomato soup case.
Right. But it's really very practical in the sense that what it is more of a surrender and letting your trust in the divine grow, because you're not going to exchange a world of time and space and linearity for the present moment. If you
immediately.
Think,
it's possible, but it's not that easy to do. Seemingly,
especially if you have
until
fear.
this moment.
Right. If there's fear, you're not going to let it go. So you have experiences that show you it's safe. It's safe to trust.
Right.
And then
you're leaning on a cane that's not rubber.
Yes.
Over and over again. Then you can keep rubbing up against it, and then your recognition is more and more that you are that infinite.
Yes.
And then you could say, honestly, the Father and I are one because there's nothing else, or the Goddess and I are one.
Yes.
You could easily say the Goddess and you are one and mean it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's how I feel. We might have a preference to one or the other. Like the Father and I are one of the God, but it wouldn't. Irrelevant.
Oh yeah, because the spirit is beyond
one.
gender, yes,
Right.
And that's truly transcending the whole gender identity, which is just another identity, because spirit is just
what
universal.
you're not delirious. You know what physical body you're in, but so what? It's like you're in a blue shirt, a nice pressed blue shirt, as it turns out. But actually, we had this thing with this steamer that we loved it, so that was. And I'm in a brown jacket, and that's the level of difference. You know what I mean? But we give it so much more weight and so much more fire, that we start wars over.
Yes. Yeah, the body's eyes will continue to report differences. People ask me a lot about enlightenment, but it's like, and physiology and the brain and how does it work with the mind and whatever, but it's the mind that seems to break the world into these categories, labels and levels and hierarchies, and then the body's five senses just bring witness to those. And it's a judgmental kind of state of mind. But when you reach enlightenment, what it is the body's eyes still report differences, but the healed mind puts them into one category. They're unreal. You're not going to make a big deal out of about blue and brown, male, female, you know, high and low. All these things that seem to, you know, be important. Rich and poor seems to be a big deal. Even sickness and health, you know, it's like health is really a state of mind. And so if you can just watch the world from that state of mind, then you've got it.
Right. And so, I mean, when you say, you even use the word enlightenment, again, that's like a category. I mean, in a way, what does that mean? I mean, that's another illusion that humans carry. We're going for something, or we want to be something. You know, the way I would look at it, you get lighter, lighter, lighter in a sense, and then people would define it, you cross a line.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? In an infinite universe, when do you, and why? Why would you even look at it that way?
Yeah, you might think of it, enlightenment as just the present moment, because we're back to that again, because when you place it out into the future, then it's just a constant.
I am enlightened. What is, you know,
and then
that's
if you're,
ludicrous
right.
on
Or
some level.
if you're pursuing something, then it's like chasing a carrot that always is moving.
Right, and why would love and motion define itself in any way?
Yes.
You know,
so those are terms that
that
like
we use.
Self-realization, enlightenment, Christianity, they call it salvation, but we're talking about joy.
Here, right.
We're not talking about believing in
Later.
a particular person that lived 2,000 years ago, but actually a living experience of that presence in the here and now.
Right.
And call it what you want. I mean, that's the fun
call
part.
it what you want.
We don't
exactly.
ever have to get caught in semantics.
Well, the only thing is, it's not required to get caught in semantics, but people do. So, I mean, how we use that and how it's, you know, we talk about like the show and everything like that, that it's inclusive and it's infinite.
Yes.
So if anything is like, you're not and I am, out.
Right.
Just out.
Right.
For now.
Right.
Just get it out. We're better off with it out. At
Yes.
this point in history, we look at it as like, you
Right.
know, if a word can't be described as like, or a thing or an idea can't be described as infinite and inclusive, can it be a service? And it can at some level, and it's fine. And you know, right.
I think of them as kind of springboards too. I mean, when you go into the deep stillness, it's beyond the words anyway.
Exactly.
So I say, use whatever you're comfortable with. You know, just let it resonate.
Well, we were talking earlier, Miki and I, about what effect it has. So I mean, you want to be conscious in every moment. So you want to use. You wouldn't want to speak Greek to a French person because they might not understand.
That's part of the miracle. Like when I go to other cultures and things, I'll use the symbols. The spirit like speaks the symbols through me that can be heard, because it would just go over your head if you're talking about symbols that, you know, go over to the Middle East or to Islamic countries and start talking about Jesus. You know, it's like that doesn't register. You know.
Actually, they'll get you a little lower. Lately, they're starting to not deal with that well. All right, so let's do the second set. You know, everybody I know just loved the first one. So Miki's second set is Wind Swim and Trees. This is from Miki's CD Songs, both written and performed by Miki Huber.
Kinda cold out here. I've got my coat on, and those leaves swirling round look like little birds. God, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon for not loving, for not being strong. But I'm holding on, and those leaves keep swirling, And my mind keeps turning back to a time when I was shining. And I start listening, the leaves are whispering. They say, come inside, swimming to the wind. So I let go and I swim into the wind, and it takes me down a little street where the trees are bare and the sidewalks cracked and there's no one around, and I sing, and it sounds like birds and it sounds like flowers opening. Sounds like words I've never heard, and it sounds like words I've never heard. The words are swimming, the words are swimming in the wind. Swimming in the wind. Sounds that most of us don't hear. Trees like the wind that washes over tears through the window pane. The wind washes over the rain. I can see through years. I can see through years. It somehow feels the same as the way I came to see the world one day in the sandbox under the tree, like the old rock. Talk to me, let the air out, let it all fall in. Talk to me like trees, oh yeah, talk to me. Sounds that most of us don't hear. Trees like the wind that washes over tears. The wind washes over the rain. I can see through years. I can see through years.
Wow, that was really beautiful. Thank you, Miki. That was really wonderful.
Yeah, you can feel it.
You can really feel it change, really. Really, that's fantastic. So why don't you talk? I guess we got, we have to say something for being on a talk show and all, but why don't you talk little bit about how your life and the tools and the graces and the miracles, or how, you started losing a little bit of the past and a little bit of future, kind of, coming into being in the moment, being in the now.
Yeah, well, listening to Miki's song reminds me of how, like you talk about all the wonderful guests that have graced your presence in the show. It's been that way for the last 13 years, where, like with Miki, we met in New York City at a gathering, and then she just decided she would come out and travel with me for a week. And I've been really blessed and graced with singer-songwriters that have joined me along the way. And going to a lot of gatherings, to me it's a continuous gathering. I mean, everyone you meet at guitar stores and grocery stores and rest areas, in restrooms, I mean, the joy of the living moment is that you see everyone is yourself. That's what the oneness is. And so to me, that's part of the grace of the miracles, is that, even in getting a guitar to play for this show, Miki, we just had a miracle that unfolded where we were just leaving that open, thinking maybe, Miki was saying maybe rent, and no, miracles came in, it was just loaned. Those are the kind of things that happened. There's a lot of synchronicities, and it's very effortless and easy when you're in the flow of extending the love and joy of God. And so that's the beautiful thing of this whole thing. So it started out for me years ago doing that, where people would write to me, invite me. My feeling was, I don't have to go out and convince anybody of anything. It's me who's being convinced of all this joy and oneness. And then when the invitations would come, I would feel honored to go and show up.
And when did they start coming, and how did people know that there's this joyous being in Cincinnati, in Ohio, traveling around? How did people, just you like gave up your past life and just started out there, and then the word spread, word of mouth?
Yes, it was pretty much word of mouth at the beginning, because in 1991 I just started traveling. I didn't have money markets, CDs and everything. I thought, well, this is going to be an interesting thing to get out there on the road. Very much like Peace Program, except she did it with walking. I was in a car, so I covered a little more territory, but it was the same kind of principle. People inviting me to stay, and come here, come there. The very first gathering, they would give me little strips of paper. They would say, "Oh, you've got to stay with my daughter or my aunt," and
in different places.
In different places,
so you would have a map and you're setting.
Yeah, they the first trip out, I was coming to California, and actually got to the point where I was like, okay, that's what it's going to be, and so I said, okay, I'll be open to that. And then when I got to California, I had all these strips of paper. I put them out on the bed, and I plotted them, and I could see there was almost like a script, a prearranged plan, because I could see
the different cities.
Yes.
And
yeah, right around, even around the Los Angeles area. It was like I said, oh my gosh, like I'm just stepping through a prearranged plan, and it seemed brand new to me, but it was almost like it was being orchestrated, and every little encounter was really orchestrated. So that got it rolling.
And so people talk about like intention or grace and effort. How would you describe that?
Yeah, I think when you have the purpose and you hold that out in front just to extend the love, then everything and everyone seems to witness to that purpose. Whereas with the ego, it doesn't really have a clear-cut goal for life. And so it's always looking backward and judging. Did I like this person? Could I have been better with this? It's always got some breaking apart and analyzing. Whereas when you hold your purpose out front, then there's a flow, and you can feel like you're a twig being carried down a stream. And that's the thing I would say, it's effortless and easy. If you're struggling, then the ego is trying to get in there and jump on the train and kind of steer the ship a little bit. And that's when it's time to let go, let God, step aside, and that's when the joy comes back.
So if one is in that flow, would there be conceptually a crucifixion of sorts, or metaphorically a crucifixion?
No, the crucifixion is really just self-judgment and self-criticism. And
would others perhaps judge you and create situations that potentially are injurious to the physical form.
No, in fact,
Wouldn't happen.
No.
Can't happen.
In fact, that
So
was a teaching.
Jesus.
That was just an extreme teaching device. You might say that that was the last useless journey, in the sense that that resurrection is about joy. It's about ascension, and basically that was an extreme teaching device that was used kind of like a one-time gig.
One-time shot.
Like you can't kill who you are. You can't kill the Spirit. You can't kill the Christ. People ask me about the whole concept of suffering on the cross, and yogis and mystics have demonstrated mind over matter, for centuries. And this is Jesus Christ. I mean, our neighbors walk on hot coals and don't get their feet burned. So the idea that somebody would have to be a sacrificial lamb for the sake as a ransom for everyone else, that was just the ego's interpretation of that event. But basically,
So would you say the event happened and the event was a one-time deal for what purpose?
just to show that you can't kill who you really are. The body can certainly seem to be destroyed, but the spirit, kind of like they say in the Titanic song, Rose, my heart goes on and on and on. There's nothing that can stop the spirit. The spirit is just eternal. So that was kind of a way where Jesus was saying, I'm calling you out of the world. My kingdom is not of this world, meaning the present moment is the gateway to eternity. He kept saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and within, that's very, very close. So he wasn't really talking about far off things like we were talking about in the future, but just learning to just stay and live in the present moment with such fervor and reverence that you don't ever give the past or the future another shot.
Any room.
No
They're
room.
Finished.
Yes.
Right.
Kaput.
So, okay, so if people, are watching the show and going, boy, that sounds like a good idea, I'm not that happy or I'm not that content. So, I mean, are there ideas, techniques, tools that you could, share with people that would help them in that area?
Well, everyone knows about prayer and meditation. I would say that open dialogue, where you allow whatever the emotion is to come up and feel that non-judgmental presence. I mean, that's why, like Miki and I have been traveling for a week, and I love when people travel with me because it's just you're in the car, you're sharing the joy, and when other things seem to come up, then it's beautiful. There's not a sense of judgment. It's like a sense of let it come up. It's even, I would say, even encouraged, whereas the world pushes
the
it down.
is the it coming up.
It would be upset of some kind. That peace of mind is covered over by these false beliefs and these false perceptions and upsets. So you allow it to arise, and then you're really with it, though. You don't try to stuff it down, you don't try to repress, and neither do you try to distract away, because there's a lot of distractions in this world.
Right.
Drugs. People could even use movies, for example, as an escapism kind of thing.
I think the box office has proved that. No, every Friday some stupid movie gets $40 million. How is this possible?
Yeah, but if you use them for the purpose of, I call it mind watching, and letting those emotions come up. For example, recently, before I went on a tour to South America, I was guided to go see The Passion of the Christ. And again, it was that I knew that this topic would come up, because a lot of people had a lot of emotions stirred. And people ask me, was it a good movie, a bad movie? I say, well, anything that helps trigger or stir emotions that are buried, and certainly shame and guilt, around the body, around Christianity. These are like deep themes that are down there in the psyche that need to come up. So in that sense, if you went to see it without censoring your emotions, just let them come up, cry, laugh, whatever emotions are there, those are really important, because when you censor them or when you keep them bottled up, then they seem to get acted out in terms of cancer or of wars breaking out. And
The disharmony will manifest.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we're having like a neutral observer looking at it and not judging it, then it's like light shining where there was darkness.
Yes. Yeah.
And then it's not dark anymore.
Right, it really lights up the whole world when you clear your perception. And that's really what Jesus was talking about 2,000 years ago, about before you get the speck out of your brother's eye, get the beam out of your own. He was using words, there was no perception. Freud hadn't come along with the defense mechanisms and perception and everything, but he was talking about it in simple terms, probably in the Aramaic, using parables and all kinds of things. You have to purify your heart, you have to clear your own perception. And so that's what I focus my whole life on, was to do that.
And then just go out and share it.
Yeah, just that simply. And it's not even so much a go out in the sense that we all know that you could be walking through the woods or sitting in a place in a hammock and just feeling the oneness of the universe.
And because your energy, you're beaming
Yes.
it out. So
Yes,
who's more
exactly.
valuable, someone who's doing a show with 1 million people or a million followers, or somebody sitting on a mountaintop?
Yes.
It's the same.
Yeah, people ask me that too. Somebody like Mother Teresa who gallivanted all over, and somebody like a yogi that meditates for
Who no
12
one
to
knows
16
about.
Right. And so when you heal your own perception, the whole world is healed.
Right, because the vibration just is infinite. that
Yes.
way. Yeah, I mean, we talked about that earlier. I mean, then the Berlin Wall falls, and what caused it?
Yeah.
You know, that 100th monkey is hit, and, you know, the joy has reached a new level. Who did it? Who caused it?
Yeah.
At some point, who cares?
Yeah.
It's just like, let's go,
Yeah.
man. Let's have fun, you know?
Yes. Yeah, when I was just in Europe, I was going from Germany to Austria, and they had this old checkpoint where they used to, you know, have the guns and everything. There was no one there. I mean, we're walking from one country to another driving, and it was like, oh, what a reflection of my mind, you know, no border
no
at all.
barriers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, to me, it's still an amazement that we still have these things called borders, and we still believe in them. I mean, people want to identify with something bigger than themselves so much that we stop, you know, somewhere along the road, you know, and then but in our hearts, we know that there's that infinite, that vastness, that fullness.
Yeah, I think it's the thing, when you accept the love inside you, you see it in everyone. So I just see everybody as a sweetie. I mean, I go to other countries, they check my passport, and they do this and that. And nowadays in the United States, with all the searching, you know, I get my arms out and they're going like this, and I've been over
Yeah, I
here.
know when
and
I
this
go
and that.
through one of those things, I just get naked almost. You
Yeah,
know, I
right.
just take everything off
And
my belt and
I'm just
pants.
thinking, like, how sweet, and knowing that everybody is going for this love, except, you know, when you have fears or insecurities, you know, it seems to come out in different ways. But for me, everybody's just so darling. So I always take plenty of time with everybody I'm with. No rush. Got nowhere to go if the plane gets canceled or whatever. You know, I had a trip recently to Arizona where I walked up to get my, you know, boarding pass and everything, and said, "Your flight's been canceled." And
You're 3 days late? You must have been.
they gave me a free meal when I got to where I was going. The car was like a triple upgrade. I mean, just so many miracles happened. And actually, when I checked in at the hotel, I told the guy, and he was like, it was down near the casinos. He said, "You're having a great day. Would you
bet
play the
for me."
slots, right? Go bet for me," and everything. And I'm just telling him the miracles that just happened in the past 3 hours.
Right.
So that would be we're doing reality TV here.
Right.
You've been talking about this oneness for years, and I've been talking about it, and it's contagious. You know, people can feel the joy and the energy, and then they think, they're attracted then. They may open up with a question here or there because they feel the joy, and
Right.
that's what it's about.
Yeah, it does. And somehow it doesn't make sense to the mind. There's no reason for it. Why is this dope so
Right.
happy? You know, he's got
For no reason at all.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you know,
No earthly reason.
No earthly reason.
Yeah.
And that's like, you know, an interesting thing. I mean, like, so things go on. How does it cross a line in you that you call it a miracle? And that's an interesting concept to me.
Well,
Because, I mean, you could draw an arbitrary line almost anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
each step you take,
Yes.
you know, is a miracle. Each breath you
Yes.
take. So,
Yes.
so when do you, is it at the ticket counter? Is it, you know, how do you, because I know you use that word a lot, so I think
Yeah.
people would be interested in it.
Yeah, to me it's continuous. There's a line in A Course in Miracles that says, "Miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong."
Right.
So it really turns the word around, because we're used to thinking of, you know, like,
No, but you use it in
Major thing.
specific instances
Yes.
rather than
yes.
every moment.
Yes.
You talk about like 3 or 4 over a day.
Yes.
So you're doing something with that definition.
Yeah, I
to-
would say
okay,
the
so-
definition from that perspective is a shift in perception. So, in other words, that's that little tweak in your mind. You may be somewhere at a grocery store or doing something and seem to be
And
having,
you're not recognizing the miracle
Like
of
a-
every breath.
yeah,
so
like
all
a
of a sudden
monotonous-
you do, because
Yes.
it's big enough for your grossosity.
Yes, yes.
So, okay, I got it.
And you might say,
So
that-
it'll be different for everybody. So if
Yeah.
somebody's very subtle,
oh yeah,
then the miracle is, oh, a breath, miracle, if
Yeah.
they have to define it
Yes.
at all.
Yeah,
But the gratefulness and the
Yes.
miracle, the recognition is right there.
yep, they're
But if it's-
temporary.
if it has to be the Red Sea because we're so gross,
Yes.
or we have to win the lottery because we're so, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad or good.
Right.
It's just the nature of,
Oh yeah, it's a stark contrast to what's came before. And I would say that what I call, again, living in the present moment, when you can do that consistently, then you have continuous miracles. And up at that point, you're grateful for every little shift you can get because it shows you a little glimpse or a glimmer. If it's just a few seconds, if it goes on, Miki was saying she had one that went on for like 24 hours, just lifted into this state of perfect love. And those are important because those are our touchstones. Those are the things that say, this is what it's all about, and I'm going to get back
right,
to it.
and I love that.
Yes.
And it's so much better than the other.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so like let's say in 1 minute, if you could talk to the world and you have an opportunity. I don't know if everyone in the world watches this show sooner or later, but a lot. So, for like 45 seconds, tell them what you'd like to say.
Yes, well, be of good cheer. This whole thing has been an opening of gratitude and love, and I would say that just open your heart and be ready for the miracles. Really, you have to be ready and you have to be willing. Because if you're willing sometimes and you're not ready, then don't try to force it. Don't ever try to force things in this world, but just be willing to just open your heart up. And then trust that things will be taken care of because God loves you. And the idea that we have to handle everything by ourselves personally is a very stressful idea. So don't take that burden upon yourself. Little by little, open up more and more to the point where you start to feel the joy flowing. And Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. I would say that's it. You need to be attracted into it instead of like the old way of don't do this and don't do this and the shoulds and ought tos and have tos. That's not really true religion. You want to live inspired by joy.
Wow. Okay, I think that's pretty beautiful. So, we're coming to the end of the show. I mean, it's there, it's available. So, we want to, every one of us wants to know that love and to share it. So if you want any information about David, about Miki, about where they're going to be, their CDs, call me, Alan, 805-687-2053. That's Alan, 805-687-2053. We're honored to be with you. We love you. And really, it's an opportunity for us all. Let's just take it and let's just go get them. Good night. God bless you.